He's not even worth a roster spot. I don't give a shit what he did. I really don't. He's going to be super destructive to your team. You're going to either play him and he sucks, bench him and get mad at yourself. Don't fucking play this game. Pick up anybody else, dude.
You're listening to Let's Talk Fantasy Football, where men of fantasy genius have realized, hey guys, we don't need real football skills to dominate on the fantasy field. Yeah! So slap on your pads and grab your helmet. Shit's about to get real.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Let's Talk Fantasy Football. I am your host, Nick Schreck, and joining me tonight is the one, the only, Vinny Gonzalez. Vinny, what is going on?
What's going on, Shrek? I actually just looked up at my TV and just watched Julian Edelman give a Mexican wrestler a Hurricane Rana. So I guess it was a good idea to leave NFL Network on in the background. I did not see that coming. No, so that's where I'm at on this Tuesday.
So you're doing fantastic, is what it sounds like. I don't think there's any better way to kick off the podcast here on Tuesday night. For those of you listening, we're recording on Tuesday, November 14th. You'll be listening on the 15th, and hopefully long after that, as we recap the week, talk about some injuries, waivers, streamers, everything in between, because we've got a ton of things to look back on for Week 10. We're also going to preview the Thursday night game between the Steelers and the Titans. But first, Vinny, let's take a step back and let's give a shout out to BenchBoss. They're still the revolutionary app that allows you to play fantasy football live while watching the game on TV, predict the plays, the result of the play, and literally play fantasy football. You can sign up for the beta now by going to letstalkfantasyfootball.com/benchboss. And I want to tell you guys, Vinny was the first one from Let's Talk Fantasy Football to test out the app. I had the unique opportunity to test it out very, very recently. And it is awesome. We're super excited to get more of you guys into it. And before you know it, you guys are going to feel like pros calling the plays. It's pretty cool. It gets super competitive. You get super locked in as you start seeing the leaderboard, and you think like, no, it's definitely a pass. And I felt super dumb. I really did. I was emailing with Tyler, and I was like, dude, the app's great. I said, the biggest problem I had is just that I clearly don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to real NFL football.
Yeah, and you tried it out Thursday. So that was the Seahawks and the Cardinals. And I think the Seahawks are one of the hardest teams to read in terms of what the fuck Russell Wilson is going to do. So that's okay, Shrek. He had a rough starting game, which is not too bad.
Oh, thanks, man. Just building me back up. I appreciate it. You know, we're in for the podcast, so we've got to keep the momentum going and keep things positive. But unfortunately, Vinny, let's take a negative turn here. Let's look at some injuries from Week 10 and news as things have kind of developed for us here as people head into the week and they start thinking about waiver wire moves, Thursday night games, kind of filling gaps and whatnot. And let's start with Devontae Freeman. He comes down with the injury. What's the latest you've got on him?
So he suffered his second concussion this season and was, out of the game very early in the first quarter there versus the Cowboys. And, we saw Tevin Coleman go nuts, which I was very mad about because one of my, I was playing Chase in our league.
Yep.
And his stupid Tevin Coleman play only worked because Freeman left. And that is what we're looking at right now. So Freeman is doubtful for the Monday night game versus Seahawks with that concussion. So I think they're going to be, very cautious about bringing him back, which sucks because Freeman was, fighting off all these rumored really bad knee injuries and stuff and, left without an injury designation and then just gets rocked. And I feel really bad for the guy because he's been dinged up and one of the better running backs when healthy. But now you're going to have to start worrying like he might, in my opinion, he might wind up missing, the rest of the fantasy season. I think it's in jeopardy, but yet to be seen, but definitely not good because he's doubtful and probably won't play on Monday. So you got to start looking at the waiver wire, which we'll get to later.
Yeah, it's definitely a shitty situation for fantasy owners because, well, obviously a shitty situation for Freeman with the concussion and everything else in real life. But, we're here to talk about fantasy football. And the reality is in a Monday night game anyway with that, any kind of questionable tag, not even a doubtful tag, you're worried. I think it's safe to I would say it's safe to assume he's not going to play Monday night. So you need an alternative if you're a Devontae Freeman owner and you don't own Tevin Coleman, already have an option on the table. Because I don't think you can count on him there. And like you said, you may not be able to count on him the following week. Tevin Coleman has looked good when given the opportunity. So, again, this could be – again, we've thought it in the past. We'll see. Can Coleman, continue to take off a bigger share that he can keep ultimately? And I guess only really time will tell for that. Vinny, next injury on the list, Carolina Panthers rookie wide receiver Curtis Samuel. Suffers ligament damage in his left ankle during the Monday night win against Miami. Sucks. Rodgers and I were talking about him. He played him in a couple of leagues where he needed him with all the bye weeks and whatnot. I actually bought into his hype and had Rodgers' hype essentially on Samuel and picked him up in a few places. Sad to see. You look at the Panthers, they trade away Kelvin Benjamin, the rookie wide receiver, now ligament damage out. We watched Funchess go off, but that's a different piece of the podcast. Just sad to see.
Yeah, definitely. I even had him in our league, took him as a flyer, and he was having his best game yet as a pro. So that was really, really lame. And especially with, Russell Shepard with his goddamn rock hands on Monday night, it looked like Curtis Samuel is definitely going to be the dude going forward outside of, Funchess and the returning Greg Olsen. So I don't really know what his value would have been going forward, but he is shut down for this season. So you can safely move on from him, and hopefully it makes a good recovery for probably a good sleeper for next year. So we'll keep an eye on that in the offseason.
Yes, it's going to be very exciting to watch as we move forward and kind of see what happens. I do want to commend you there. I saw you have Greg Olsen sitting on the bench in our hometown league there, waiting for him to come off IR.
Hell yeah, dude. We can segue right over to Greg Olsen, who is expected to be a full go come week 12. So not this coming week 11, but he will be back for the Jets game, full force off the broken foot. So hopefully Greg Olsen becomes Greg Olsen again. And if he's on your waiver wire, again, we're jumping ahead of the podcast, but go ahead and stash him real quick.
Yeah, I agree. Get him. Rodgers and I alluded to it when we last on our preview. We talked about people maybe not having room, but if he's still out there, take advantage, get it, because you really, odds are, don't have a consistent tight end. Because some people still were playing Eric Ebron. Someone got a lashing for that on the last podcast. But for the record, did end up in the end zone this weekend. What a fucking shocker.
Good to see he's back where he belongs, man, in the end zone. Good.
In the end, hey, man, it's the perfect place for Eric Ebron. If any of you guys are looking to trade for Eric Ebron, hit me up on Twitter at Nick Shrek. Looking to deal some Eric Ebron for sure. Vinny, Will Fuller has a cracked ribs. Everything I'm seeing right now is saying he's going to likely to miss at least one game. I got to imagine even if he comes back, cracked ribs is super painful, one. And two, he was performing, we talked about prior to the Watson injury, kind of like, unrealistically. He was performing without logic and reason with the touchdowns to catch ratio and everything else that was going on out there.
Yeah, that shit was just unbelievable. But I never want to say injuries are a good thing, but this might help stubborn people that were still playing him. With Tom Savage at QB. So I would probably say he was droppable as soon as Deshaun Watson got hurt for me. So he should be droppable for a lot of people now, especially with the playoffs coming up. Like go pick up, Corey Coleman or Dontrell Inman, possibly Marquise Lee, some of those guys. Like get guys that can help you win now and possibly later on, because Will Fuller's not looking to be the guy going forward, especially with the cracked ribs and missing a game already. So there are guys that can help you out more so than Fuller now.
100%. And from there, let's go over to the Green Bay side of the ball. It's not even a matchup, but Green Bay. We look at Aaron Jones. We look at the Ty Montgomery injury. Ty Montgomery, the last update I saw, Mike McCarthy suggested he has a chance to play in Week 11 against Baltimore. And then Aaron Jones, we know, is out 3 to 6 weeks with an MCL injury. The Packers keep dropping like flies.
Yeah, this is really rough, man. I don't even know if they have IR slots anymore.
I don't think they do.
Yeah, they're totally booked up. So it's good that they're not missing, super extended time. But the cloudy situation around Ty Montgomery's status coming into the game will be, a thorn in a lot of people's sides, especially if you're going to pick up Jamal Williams, who we'll touch on later, who is probably, number one waiver of the week next to Samaje Perine for me, but again, getting ahead of myself. But yeah, he's, Ty Montgomery, like it doesn't seem good. Like the chance to play doesn't sound cool. And that's the same designation that he had the first time that he cracked his ribs. So it's, and he re-agitated that injury. So that is, not good news all around. So at least it's a 1:00 game for Sunday. So if you do plan on rolling Jamal Williams out, at least you have an early, time slot to work with there.
Yep. Yes, the silver lining, for sure, looking on the injury side of things, is the 1 o'clock game. And for those of you that are in a position with that, we're sorry. Definitely not a spot we want to be in. And also, guys, if you own Robert Kelly, he goes to the IR, and the Redskins, you kind of alluded to it before, Vinny. We kind of keep jumping around with waiver wire moves and whatnot, but it's just the reality of it. They signed running back Brian Marshall, one, and then two, P. Ryan is out there on a bunch of wires. Going to be a hot pickup. By the time you guys are listening to this, you got to assume he's picked up in a lot of leagues if your waiver wires run Tuesday nights or Wednesday mornings, depending on what your setup is. But Rob Kelly done, and it's on to a new back in Washington.
Yeah, and you know what? P. Ryan looked pretty good. It's so hard for me to say P. Ryan. Like, I'm so used to Perrine from us fucking up in the offseason. I think it sounds a lot better, but I'll call him P. Ryan for now, unless I fuck up later when we start talking about him again.
Old habits die hard, man. Get a couple more drinks in you, and we'll go back to old form real fast.
Yeah, he looked good, during the Vikings game. And the only concern there is Chris Thompson. Like, how much? What's the new split going to be? But I think his usage will be, probably somewhere around that 15 touches. So that is right up there with Jamal Williams this week for me. And it's honestly a tough decision. I want to get your take on that. Like, who? I'm assuming it's these two guys for a lot of leagues. So Jamal Williams or Samaje P. Ryan for you, Shrek. Let's hear it.
Oh, I mean, they're both shitty. I mean, shitty is, I guess, a poor term, but they're both kind of like, like you said, like P. Ryan's look good, but at the same time, like, he hasn't done necessarily anything to like truly wow me, where I'm like, one's a lock or the other. I think it's Williams for me.
Yeah, I think it is for me, and that's pretty much. I don't believe that Montgomery will play. So I think Williams will help you now and possibly further, but the upside for P. Ryan is probably that he'll help you for the rest of the season on, probably a guaranteed workload of 10 to 15 touches. Do you want to do that, or do you want to take the upside of, having a week winner possibly in Jamal Williams, at least for week 11, possibly week 12? And then, who knows if Montgomery, if it's even, if he's going to re-agitate it or whatnot. So it's just, I think it's totally dependent on what you think Montgomery is going to do. Because you know what P. Ryan is going to do. You know his workload. You know that there's a better back who's pretty much thriving this season in a breakout in Chris Thompson. So you're aware of the risk and reward for both guys, and it's pretty much preference for a lot of people.
I agree. It definitely comes down to preference. I mean, you watched Green Bay, they essentially fed Jamal Williams. He had 21 touches despite struggling on a lot of those. They really don't have a ton of other options on the team there, especially, like you said, if we don't expect Ty Montgomery to play. So Jamal Williams is likely to be the number one guy or number two, depending on preference, again, off the wire. I lean Williams. Again, the thing here, guys, is to be, we talk about this all the time, and sometimes I think we do breeze over it, is be conscious of what you need now. Like we get so many questions about like, well, this guy has this playoff schedule, and should I trade XYZ away now just because this person's better down the road? And the answer to that always depends. If you're in a spot where you need to win now, and I'll use our league as a reference, where all of us need to win now. We're all, I talked about it in our league update today, where, you need to win now, Vinny, especially, but we all can end up in first. We all can, though. We all can end up in first or last based on how close our records are. So realistically, we're not playing for the playoffs. We're playing week by week wins, because if we fucking lose now, it's not going to matter who the fuck helps me in week 15.
Yes, if you're super close and your league is super close, like, you need to just get wins now and worry about the rest of that shit. You'll be able to carry yourself. If you got to the playoffs, or when you get to the playoffs, you can figure it out there. Mm-hmm. The thing is, you don't want to overthink shit. I actually did that when Aaron Jones became the guy, and he was the hot waiver pickup. I forget. There were a couple names that week, but I just didn't trust it, and that could have won me my week, and I fucked up, and I didn't pick him up and didn't play him, obviously. Someone else did, and, it didn't really work out in – you got 2 playable games out of Aaron Jones, but still 2 week-winning games for you. And that's the difference between picking up a guy and not picking up a guy when you're trying to make savvier moves for the long term when you fuck yourself out of the short term wins, which can carry you to a playoff spot.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, prime example myself as well. I had Latavius Murray. I kind of held on to him from the draft, and then we watched the Dalvin Cook injury happen, and I was like, oh, well, I have Murray. Like, I don't need McKinnon. I don't need a waiver wire. I don't even put a grab on him because I have the guy. I believed I had the guy in Murray. Obviously wrong. It didn't work out. I was short term about like, oh, well, they paid him all this money. He's the guy. Clearly didn't work out. Now I kick myself and wish I had McKinnon. Again, it is what it is, but sometimes we get a little too comfortable and set in our ways. Just make sure you're keeping your eyes open a little bit because you could definitely screw yourself. But Vinny, let's talk about the Seattle Seahawks. CJ Prosise, that's right. Placed on IR due to the ankle injury. So he is done. I'm trying to see. Have we seen an update on Eddie Lacy's injury?
Yeah, he should be back. So that just kind of, fucks everything up once again because you just have, and then I saw Pete Carroll saying Chris Carson could come back in December. So I'm staying away, man. I'm just fuck everything. I don't care. And they brought up another running back. I don't even know if I wrote him down.
They signed Byron Maxwell.
Yeah, they brought him up from the fucking practice squad or something. So I am, more out than I ever could have been, which is crazy because I've been out every single week on their fucking backfield. So I'm not touching anybody. Don't even bother. This is where the opposite of what we just said. Don't worry about these guys. Who gives a shit? They will not help you win now or later.
Nope, not at all. Just fucking peace out. I ignored you and Don and rolled the dice on Thomas Rawls, and clearly that went for like 4.9 points. But again, it is what it is. I should know better with Pete Carroll anyway. Fucking shame on me. Vinny, Danny Woodhead, coming back off the IR. What do you got on him?
I've seen two different things. Like in an hour, they don't know if he's ready, and then he's absolutely ready, full go. So it's all going to be dependent on the practices. And, if you have Danny Woodhead and you stashed him, and I'm thinking he's active, which is, a good thing for the Ravens offense because they are fucking terrible. And Danny Woodhead was having a stellar week 1 before he got hurt. So they're going to chuck him a ton of balls, get that offense fucking moving, hopefully, because Joe Flacco can't throw past 20 yards, and really give that, try and jumpstart that offense because it's very stagnant right now. And I think, one, you stashed Danny Woodhead probably, 2 weeks ago, if you're lucky, just picked him up this week, so you didn't have to suffer the bench space. You're playing the dude. This is what you're supposed to do. This was like the argument we made when, Doug Martin came back. If the guy you stashed is coming back, you fucking play him this week. And if he's active, you definitely play Danny Woodhead.
100%. And it's the guy, again, it's the same narrative when we were at draft time when people drafted Danny Woodhead for the upside. It hasn't changed, like you said, particularly on a bad offense. Speaking of bad offenses, let's talk Phillip Rivers and the Los Angeles Chargers.
Hey, man, they're okay. They were moving the fucking ball against the Jags. You take that back, Shrek.
I do take it back. It's just my personal hate for Phillip.
I know.
That's all it is. And while I never wish injury upon anyone, Phillip is in the concussion protocol, which actually kind of comes as a shock because he wasn't sacked on Sunday. I think he was hit, they said, officially one time. So I'm not really sure what happened, but definitely red flag there because he's got to go through the protocol. We don't know how serious it is, and that could spell even worse things for that offense, which Keenan Allen's been mediocre at best. And it definitely hasn't been the kind of year fantasy owners expected, I think, from that offense, at least in the passing game. Yeah,
if Phillip's out, man, that offense is bad. I would say they could do it without him if Melvin Gordon was healthy, but he has not been healthy, and we've seen, Austin Eckler kind of rise from the ashes and get shit going. But if Rivers is out, man, Chargers are cooked because they have no fantasy value without that guy, I think. And you got to definitely monitor this. I mean, they didn't have the sexiest matchup in Buffalo coming up, or not in Buffalo, but they're playing at home, but still against, who's been like the Bills have been sliding, but you definitely got to keep an eye on what Rivers is doing. And I think we're kind of eating into the preview, but if Phillip is inactive, I would be scared of playing a single Charger.
I would be terrified as well. And we'll let them dive deeper based on the news they hear for Phillip.
I'm glad I don't have to talk any more about that because Dare I say I would sit Keenan Allen?
Dare. Oh, see, that advice is not coming from us, guys. If you want to hear it, that's
I didn't say it. It's going to be Don and Walsh.
Coming from somebody else. Vinny, let's talk about your Bengals. Jeremy Hill to IR, correct?
Yes. Done? So this is fucked up because he, chose a good career move and is like, I'm not getting any carries. I'm going to have ankle surgery on my fucked up ankle. And then Marvin Lewis comes out and throws him under the bus and saying like he's not a team player, or in so many words, paraphrasing. But, he was just like, he should be out there for the team, all this shit. It's like, dude, leave Jeremy Hill alone. You're going to cut him in the offseason anyway. Let this fucking dude get healthy, worry about his future, because he's not going to be a Bengal next year, I don't think. And so it is a bump fantasy-wise for Joe Mixon big time. And even Gio probably becomes a pickup. Had a decent game against the Titans, but super panic rollout as usual for Gio. But that is the fantasy relevancy of the Jeremy Hill to IR.
Poor Jeremy Hill, man. Like you said,
fall from grace big time.
Can't catch a fucking break.
That is true. And I love Jeremy Hill, but I also kind of hate him because of that fumble. Oh my God. A playoff win, Shrek. A playoff win. Gone.
Well, yes. Yeah, lots of pain, lots of deep wounds there. We don't want to go back down that path. You guys can find that back in our early episodes if you really want it. Actually, it might just be in the archive. I don't think it actually exists. I think we pulled that down. But let's switch over. Let's talk Corey Coleman. A guy here who has a good chance to step in and immediately be the Browns' number one receiver. He is expected to return from IR for Sunday's game against the Jaguars. Obviously not a great matchup, but healthy nonetheless, based on everything we're hearing.
Yeah, so this is kind of going to contradict what we were saying before. Corey Coleman's a guy I would pick up but not play him this week because the matchup is so bad, but could definitely help you in, weeks 12 on.
Yes.
So you can eat the week in this case because, don't be stupid and play Corey Coleman in an awful matchup, but he is definitely a guy who's been good every time he plays. I think Walsh said that last week, and he was totally right.
Yes, he is. Totally go get him. And we'll, I'm sure, hit on him again as we hit the waiver wires and the streamers. But we'll finish up here with news and injuries on Zach Ertz. Everything I've seen, Vinny, coming out of Philadelphia is that he is practicing and expected to be active. No concern here on Zach Ertz.
Yeah, he'll be ready to go, shaking off that hamstring injury. And then if anything happens, you can pick up oh, God damn it, what's his name? Oh, my God. Burton was their backup?
Burton.
Yes.
Yep.
Who, in a panic situation, which a lot of people did, and it totally paid off. So I don't want to say keep him on your bench, but if anything happens to Ertz and he's a scratch, go for that.
Yeah, it definitely gives you some options. So, but we expect Ertz.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say I actually have one more injury. I thought we were moving on. My bad.
No. I was just going to say we expect Ertz to be healthy and play. That's all it was.
Indeed we do. But before we move on, a guy who is not a superstar. Well, he is a superstar, but will affect an offense. Tyrone Smith, man.
Yes.
He's up in the fucking air, and he is the MVP of the Cowboys right now because they looked fucking awful as hell and got sacked to shit without him on the team. And they're going to be, the Cowboys will be at home. But yeah, they will be in a lot of trouble against the Eagles front, dude. So
they're going to be a lot of trouble. Yeah. I was looking. I don't have the exact stat in front of me, but I was looking before when I was writing the update that Dak Prescott has, I don't know if it was one or no passing touchdowns and 2 of 3. And really the only thing keeping him afloat in fantasy over the past few have been his rushing. With him on the ground. So, and again, they lose Zeke, so you lose that rushing threat there. I mean, we'll talk whatever about that running game there and everything else. But, the Cowboys are going to be in big, big trouble with that injury.
Yeah, it's pretty tough because, the Eagles' defense is awesome as hell. And then they
added a loss like that.
Exactly. So I would be, again, worried to play any Cowboys. It's like the Sunday night game, too. And if Tyrone Smith doesn't play, I would freak the fuck out because the Eagles are probably going to wreck them if he's out.
They may still wreck them even if he's in, but if he's out, they're definitely still going to wreck them.
Very good point. I also have a sweet stat about Adrian Claiborne, who was the guy that absolutely destroyed Smith's replacement, who was Chaz Green, who got embarrassed. Those 6 sacks that he got on him.
Yep.
$750K bonus incentives.
Wow.
One game, 6 sacks.
Wow.
And yeah, he might want to give Chaz Green like some, side money for that, because he abused that man.
Give him a little something. Jesus Christ. Yeah. 750. Life's good, man. Damn, we got to rework our contract here with the studios. We need some kickback for some shit here.
Yeah, we get the Eddie Lacy contract and we get the incentives for Claiborne, dude. We could be living large.
Just a little bit, but we only want pieces of it. We don't even need the whole damn thing.
God, no.
Any other injuries or big pieces of news you want to hit before we get into waivers and streamers here?
That's it, man. Let's move on to some cool stuff instead of sad things like injury.
Yeah. No more sad, no more injuries. We'll try and cheer you guys up. And I guess let's kick things off at the running back position. We talked about Jamal Williams and P. Ryan. But some other guys. We talked about Woodhead, Danny Woodhead. Again, if he's out there, get him immediately a start there in that Ravens offense. A guy I want to ask you about, Vinny, and the name sucks. Rex Burkhead.
No.
Okay. No hesitation.
Fuck no. Let someone else destroy themselves if they're going to pick up. He's not even worth a roster spot. I don't give a shit what he did. I really don't. He's going to be super destructive to your team. You're going to either play him and he sucks, bench him and get mad at yourself. Don't fucking play this game. Pick up anybody else, dude. Anyone.
I agree. I agree. It's not worth the fucking frustration. I've done it with Deion Lewis.
Yeah, man. It's not worth it.
It just continues. Spin the fucking wheel on Patriots players, and that's literally as much accuracy as you're gonna fucking have. What about Damian Williams? Miami, he was sick going into the game last week. He missed a bunch of practices. He didn't have a great yards per carry. Do you think it's Kenyon Drake's job there in Miami, or do you think it's Damian Williams, or do you think we still don't really know?
I don't know. I'm not really sure. I think, Drake is definitely the starter early down back, and I'm surprised Damian Williams didn't have a better game being like a blowout and them having to catch up. You saw Drake bust a big run. That saved his day big time, but the ambiguity there is, concerning, because it's going to be an ultimate, like, I'm kind of screwed on my bench, and I'm just going to have to flex one of these guys. And you know what? They're both good plays in theory every week, because you don't know which way it's going to go. And that sucks, but I'd rather play them 100% over a guy like Burkhead or, another headache kind of deal. So they're not the worst flex guys. And if Drake or Williams are out there on your waiver wire, they're absolutely worth an own.
I completely agree on the own. And I agree. I think it's a situation where you just don't know. Drake is the guy, but it's a total unknown. Another guy on the wire I do like, I think needs to be owned, particularly with the Matt Forte injury, Elijah McGuire. I've been a Bilal Powell guy for a long time, banging the drum, just rolling him out there, believing. I really thought he was going to have a big week. I thought the Jets were going to have a much bigger week as a whole against the Bucs.
Mm-hmm.
A very bad Bucs team, and it didn't happen that way. But he played 52% of the snaps against the Bucs, 36 of 69. About split with Bilal Powell there, but he outgained Powell 58 to 36 yards, and he saw 7 targets. Powell only with 2. Matt Forte, we think, is going to miss quite a few games with this knee injury. I think McGuire's a must-add immediately.
I don't necessarily think he's a must-add because the Jets are on bye this week, and like you said, if you have bench space and you can afford to add him and you can take the hit for the week, that's fine. But they could go into week 12 and Forte could be active. So then you added him for nothing. So I would say he's on the lower end of the ads for me, but I would be just concerned about Powell if you're a Powell owner and, going into week 12 when they're back, it's nerve wracking because he is supposed to be taking the reins, but that game against the Bucs was very odd. And I think maybe they were just trying to look for a burst. So they gave McGuire more carries. So that even puts less stock into the fact that I want him on my team.
Okay, fair enough. I agree about the bye week thing. I do think it's a bit of a shift there to him over Bilal Powell, but could be wrong. And we'll see with Forte because he's appears to be the guy that they like the best, which is fucking mind-boggling to me. But he performs, man. So I guess that's just the fucking way it goes. I got a couple other running backs here. I mean, I think Austin Eckler is an interesting ad there with we talked about the Phillip injury and all the other things that kind of could happen with that Chargers offense, but
right.
I think he's an interesting ad with, like you said, Melvin Gordon hasn't been fully healthy. They clearly have him involved there, and I think they could keep him involved. I don't have the stats in front of me, based on how many targets and what he had, but he had a nice game, obviously, last week. Yeah,
he absolutely dominated. 2 touchdowns. He, obviously second seat to Melvin Gordon, but Melvin Gordon is not healthy. So they are looking to get Eckler involved. And this is one of those injuries that we don't know anything about because there's no designation. And it's just one of those nagging things that he's dealing with. Like he'll not practice, get a half, and then he's active and he throws up a bum game for you again. So Melvin Gordon owners are freaking out. If you're a Gordon owner, definitely go out there and pick up Eckler just in case anything happens or if he scratches or they shut him down for the season, something like that. But he's an interesting flex play going forward, which I did not expect or see coming at all. And Brendan Oliver's inactive, so there's no competition. He's going to be playing some snaps, getting targets. They're pass catching back right now, and they're looking to use him.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was actually watching the game with Don on Sunday, and we're watching him. We're like, what a week! Like Don you guys talked up Josh McCown. He's like, I went all in. I played him in all my leagues. Like, and he's like, we're looking at like the top scorers for the week, and it's like, I mean, it was early, but it was like, Austin Eckler, like running back 2 with 2 touchdowns. Like it was just like what in the world is going on right now that Austin Eckler is running back number 2 in fantasy scoring.
This week was bad, dude. Very bad. And
a lot of things did not pan out the way we or many people expected it to.
Yeah. I also let Don talk me into – I've never done 50-50s really before in DraftKings. Dude, I signed up for like 3 or 4, and they're all $5 entries. And I joined like a couple on accident too. And I was like, oh, this will be fine. And the week totally went the opposite way of what I did. Got wrecked in every contest. I think I lost like $20-25, which was basically everything I was using to keep playing ours weekly.
Yep.
So now I got to throw back in like 20-25. So thank you, Don, for, building me up for the 50-50s and just getting absolutely rammed this weekend.
Where did you go wrong? What was your big crux?
So
did you roll one guy?
What did I do? I think it was like McCown and Robbie. Like that worked out a little bit, but
yes.
Who else? I took out Eric Ebron last second, put in Jack Doyle. I did the last second shit and like changed my lineup, and I should have left it the way it was, but and the week just was crazy. So,
well, yes,
it was a bad week for me to get involved in throwing some cash around.
Yes, it was a bad week all around. I feel like I had Tyrod, I think, in almost every daily lineup. I just expected better things from him.
God damn.
Did not work out. So I am with you and lost quite a bit of money on DraftKings last week. But that is that's the way it goes, I suppose. That's why it's not called winning. Any other running backs you want to put in here, waivers, streamers, etc.? I got some names, but I could just keep rattling them.
Yeah, so 2 guys that are probably owned, Orleans Darkwa and Latavius Murray. If they're out there, go grab those guys because, Murray, we talked about him for the last couple of weeks. He gets a lot of work and, doesn't always seize the opportunity, but we saw it like he's having every other week is good, bad. So he's got that chance. So if your team is a little banged up and you could use a guy that's getting, I think he's averaging 18 touches over the last 4 weeks. So
it's crazy.
You can do way worse, man. And he'll get the goal line stuff sometimes. And you could get lucky like last week or, 2 weeks ago. So
I'll give you Thomas Rawls. Who wants Thomas Rawls? Take him.
Nobody. If you package Rawls with Ebron, you could get someone's kicker.
Fucking perfect. Yeah, kick a scrub kicker.
Yeah, not even a good one. Fucking like Kai Forbath.
There you go. There you go. You get 3 points a week. Good for you, Nick. Congrats. You freaking earned it. Over to wide receivers. Corey Davis. I got Corey Davis, Josh Doxson, and Corey Coleman are kind of they're leading the way here on my wide receiver waiver wire.
Definitely. I like those names. Did you say Marquise Lee?
I did not, but he's a good name as well.
Yeah, I'd throw him in. We saw Alan Hearns get messed up.
Yep.
So, injury designation on him. We'll check that out. But Marquise Lee, man, kind of emerging, and they're throwing a little bit more with Bortles. And we saw that, workout and then not in the Chargers game. That was wild as fuck. But he's getting the work, got the 2-point conversion, got a touchdown. So he's getting looks in the red zone, which is, yeah. So I like him as an ad. And he's a good stream or whatever, like spot play for this week. So I like him a lot. You can pick up Marquise Lee.
I agree. I do want to ask you about Marquise Goodwin. What do you think here? Do you think it's like he had the big play? He had the big play and the emotional moment there on the field. But is this just kind of like a freak thing where we finally saw the 49ers like do their thing and like win a game against a very bad Giants team, or because that's exactly what they are. I'm trying to see what he only drew one other target. So like, that's what kind of concerns me.
Yeah. He'll be, it's like playing Sammy Watkins. You get that 1 or 2 look and it could go for a touchdown and win you the week, or you get nothing and you lose your week. But I feel really bad for the guy. I'm glad he got out there and, helped his team and looked, very cathartic for him.
Yep.
So that was very cool to see, and no one even knew about it until after the game. I was pretty confused too. I'm like, what is he doing? I thought he was going to go nuts and celebrate, and he's just laying there and everyone comes around. I'm like, something must be up. And, Sure enough, we find out later what happened. But as far as fantasy goes, he's on bye this week too. So not an immediate pickup. It's kind of like the McGuire situation. He could help you out next week.
He gets a shitty matchup though. He gets Seattle, which is not ideal, even without.
What? That's not so shitty anymore with Sherman out. And dude, Cam Chancellor's fucked up. Earl Thomas dealing with something. Dude, the whole Legion of Boom is fucked up. Seattle's kind of spotty on defense now, so it's not the worst on paper. Obviously, they could get more healthy. Earl Thomas could come back from the hamstring, but they are banged up as shit right now. So if Seattle's still banged up and rolls around week 12, we'll be talking about him again as a streamer.
Fair enough. Well, we will keep our eye on that after the bye and see how it all shakes out. Do you have anybody else on your wide receiver list? I mean, I got like Josh Gordon here if you want to.
Take that off, dude. Jesus Christ. That's over, Shrek. Stop. I just have a guy who's actually playing and scoring points, Dontrell Inman.
Oh, okay. Just playing and scoring points, that's it?
Yeah, guys you can play that are active in the league still and, hanging out with
not
the team.
Bucks.
Yeah, I mean, I like Josh Gordon and all, but man, we'll worry about that next year. We'll have plenty of time to yell in the offseason if he's going to regain form and all that shit.
Yes, we will.
Yes, so I wouldn't worry about that. But Dontrell Inman's worth, I think, an own. It's just the Bears don't really throw it too much, but he's starting to get looks, putting shit together, so I like it.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I'm just looking. 6 to 8 targets for 88 yards against the Packers. Just trying to see what else, 0 for 0 in week 5. So yeah, I mean, if he can stay consistent,
he was inactive.
Yeah. I got you. But I'm just looking at the, if he can stay involved there, closer to that 6 for 88, especially in a PPR league, that's a nice day.
Definitely.
I'll take 14 points any day of the week from a guy I'm going to pull off the fucking waiver wire.
Yeah, it's just the low upside with him because they don't throw a lot, not a high-octane offense, and they give Jordan Howard 25 to 30 touches a game. So you're playing with fire, but something I said.
Yeah, sometimes it works out for you. Anybody else on the wide receiver side, Vinny, for you, or are we ready to go tight ends?
Let's go tight end, baby.
Kick us off. I have one name on the top of the list, but I have a feeling he'll be on yours.
Is it Greg Olsen?
Well, yes, he was the top of the list, but we
covered him. Yeah, for me, it's still Charles Clay.
Fair enough.
He had a bum ass game, but dude, he just came back off of like sort of reconstructed knee. Well, not reconstructed, but they were in his knee, fucking around, and he came back, after just a couple of weeks. So give him that week. He got rocked in the leg too. Like I thought he would be leaving the game or fucked up, but. He will have better games coming up, and he's definitely the number one wide receiver for the Bills right now, even with Kelvin. So look for Clay to have some bounce back weeks coming up, and he's still a tight end 1 for me. So if anybody drops him, especially this week, go pick him right up.
I agree. Big things to come for Charles Clay. Two guys I'm going to ask you about. One is more personal than the other.
Don't.
Tyler Kroft.
Okay, Tyler Kroft's a good pickup. He's more of a streamer for me, which I was going to get to. But, playing the Broncos, visiting the Broncos, so it'll be a tough matchup, regardless of what anomaly is happening to that stiff Broncos defense. But they do get eaten up by the tight end, so Kroft continues to be a play for me.
Okay, I agree. I like him as a streaming candidate. He's actually at the top. He was my number one. I don't count Greg Olsen because of being Greg Olsen.
Right.
But I had him as my number one. Charles Clay actually at 2, just because I think he's probably more owned and Cross more of the weekly guy this week. And then the more personal name.
I know who it is.
Jermaine Gresham.
Oh.
Where do you think I was going?
Hoop Daddy. Austin Hooper.
My first target was Jermaine Gresham, just based on the
my really good half-ass call. Like,
yes,
the suggestion to play him, but something I didn't do in a single league, so I take zero credit for that. It just kind of worked out. But with Drew Stanton a little messed up, I forgot to touch on that in the injuries. They have some weird kind of chemistry going, and if Stanton is okay. I think Jermaine Gresham is like that. I think I would pull the trigger now that I've seen it happen, 2 weeks in a row. And you know what that means, Shrek? It's bound to bust.
It is 100% bound to bust. Everyone is going to be on Jermaine Gresham because we've seen it now 2 weeks with the touchdowns, and it is just going to blow up in everybody's faces. But, I mean, I'm with you, though. How can we not talk about it? How can you not partially at least make that recommendation now after seeing it?
Yeah,
because they clearly have something going on there. There's some kind of chemistry where they believe in each other, and it is what it is.
Yeah, for sure. Why fight it? And they got the Texans, who are reeling. So
yes, yeah, they're hurting all over the place. So that's all I really have on tight ends.
Yeah, I guess I'll throw in Austin Hooper since I kind of mentioned him. He's getting more and more looks. What was great about that? If you played Austin Hooper, whatever idiot savant did that. They did a play action rollout to him. He gets like 25 yards, just short of the goal line. They immediately run like the same play, and they give him the touchdown, like a yard. I was just like, that is something that would never happen to me. I'm not that lucky. I was just amazed. I was like, of course. Austin Hooper's going off right now.
They fucking blessed him. Yeah, I think that's the first time I played him. I played Hooper. It's the first time I've played a tight end, I think, all year in our league that scored a touchdown for me.
Yeah,
because Ebron, man.
And you know what? He scored a touchdown too, so you were going to win-win.
I was finally right on Ebron. It only took me 10 weeks to finally be right on Ebron to get a fucking touchdown. So nothing like being fucking stubborn and wrong the entire way through the process.
But they also get the Seahawks, who I was talking before, are banged up as shit. And you know what? Give up points to the tight end as it is. So Austin Hooper could be a nice stream in a Monday night matchup.
Yes. Austin Hooper, baby. Let's
go.
Hoop Daddy. We'll see what he's got going on. All right, Vinny. QB, streamers, and waiver wire moves. The list that I have in front of me is super ugly, and I don't know if I'd do any of them.
If that list doesn't start with Jay Cutler, Shrek, I don't even want to talk about this.
Well, why don't you kick us off?
Well, it's Jay Cutler, man. He's been having good games. Me and Walsh are finally, Jay's syncing up with us, and we're suggesting that he's a good play, and he's been – dude, he did okay. Only threw one pick against the Panthers. Had a great week against the Raiders 2 weeks ago, and draws a delicious matchup against the Bucks.
All right. Hold on. Let's take timeout one. He had a great matchup again. He played well against the Raiders, who have 0 interceptions on the year against anybody. So,
and you know that you would have put money on Jay Cutler throwing a pick to them, and he didn't.
Yeah, but does that speak volumes about Jay Cutler, or does it speak volumes about the secondary in Oakland?
Speaks volumes about both things.
I think it's more about the secondary in Oakland, but okay. Fair enough. I'll give you that. All right. He throws one against Carolina, and we just watched Josh. You like him, so you can. I'm going to tell you to take your Jay Cutler bias out of it, but I know that's impossible.
Trust me. You heard me and Walsh come clean a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
The bias is gone. We're just admitting it's a nice matchup.
Okay.
And he's been playing better. And you know what? The freak game, Josh McCown, I know he busted against the Bucs last week.
Yep.
I don't care. They're still a terrible defense.
Okay.
And he should be able to put together a good game.
Okay. That's where my question was going is, trying to look at it objectively if possible, is this purely we love Josh McCown, who has played well up to last week's game against a bad Bucs team, and now it is Jay Cutler, who in theory in the same boat has played well, now gets a bad Bucs team. That's really what it is. It's the matchup, and he's played well. But I mean, again, McCown, I don't know what it was. Hopefully it was a fluke week. They shit the bed. So I'm a little weary just based on watching it happen last week.
Well, it's one of two. Like, do you think that the Bucs defense turned it around that much?
You're right. The Jets were probably just the Jets.
That's what I'm thinking. I think the Jets had a weird game against the Bills, blew them the fuck out, divisional game, and then went on the road to the Bucs and just fucking laid an egg. And they just got fucked for it. And so did you if you played any of them, except for Robbie Anderson, who is a touchdown machine.
Garbage time savior, man. That's what it was this week. It was a garbage time savior for Robbie Anderson and Josh McCown.
Yeah.
All right, man. I mean, Jay Cutler. He's the best name I have on the list.
I have a better name, a sexier name. Better. Yeah, I think Derek Carr, who's probably on a lot of waiver wires.
That's fair. I kind of forget about him being on waiver wires, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, well, see, I think in more casual leagues he's still owned, just because the name value and stuff like that. But I think in deeper, more serious leagues, guys were looking, cutting bait on him and stuff like that. So he draws a nice matchup, Patriots in Mexico. So that could be, streamable in my mind, and it should be a good game.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's probably going to be a shootout. As I alluded to, the Raiders secondary is brutal, so I think Tom Brady has a field day against the Oakland Raiders.
Absolutely.
So obviously, big week there. So I think the Raiders, they have to throw the ball. So in theory, I think it's just that becomes a volume play as well.
Absolutely, man. And then I have one more. It's a little sketchy, but Case Keenum at the Rams.
Yeah,
it's obvious. Would you rather do that or play Jay Cutler, Shrek?
That's a terrible question.
That's fucking right. Get up against the wall and answer.
Oh God, I'd probably play Jay Cutler.
Yeah, you fucking would. Say it again.
I'd play Jay Cutler.
That's all I wanted from tonight. Thanks, man.
Okay, we can end this podcast, guys. Thanks. It's been real. We'll see you next time.
Catch you on the flip side, Shrek. Jay Cutler.
There it is. Jay Cutler. Yeah, that sucks. But yep, let's keep it.
I was honestly shocked to see that Mike Zimmer had to come out and address the quarterback situation. Like, Keenum has been great. And Redskins defense isn't that bad, man. They're a very solid unit, and going against the Rams usually get up on people fast, and you got to throw anyway, and their defense has been, people got to pass on them, so they give up some plays and whatnot. So Case Keenum's operating behind a very efficient offense and could be a nice stream as well.
Yeah, Keenum to me is very interesting. We'll see what happens. I mean, he was super efficient against Washington. 29 attempts, 21 completions. He was averaging 10.5 yards attempt. He's averaging really about 6 to 6.5 on the season. Yeah. So again, he played really well, and I'm not saying it can't continue, but just it is just food for thought, and but I agree. He's another good viable streaming option for people that are in a spot that need one, or that rolled Josh McCown last week, lose him to the bye, and don't have another option depending on how their waiver wires are actually going to shake out.
Yeah, man, for sure.
But all right, I think that does it for me on QBs. I don't think I can get behind anybody else here.
That's it for me, man.
All right, Vinny. Well, with that, let's take a quick break. We're going to hear from BenchBoss, and we're going to come back, and we're going to talk some cool shit, weak shit, and preview the Thursday night game.
This year, dominate your friends with free play-by-play fantasy football from BenchBoss. BenchBoss is the first play-by-play fantasy football game where you must think like the players and coaches on the field as you predict the outcome of every play. Earn rewards as you compete against friends and fans across the country. BenchBoss is currently recruiting beta testers, and we need you. Visit benchboss.tv to learn more and sign up today.
All right, and we are back. That was BenchBoss. Sign up for the beta now, guys. Let's talk fantasyfootball.com/benchboss. We'll get you guys into the iOS and Android beta testing. Gonna be sick. Predict the plays, and you can be just as bad as I am at thinking I'm a real NFL coach. With that, Vinny, let's talk cool shit, weak shit. And really, this list is non-existent because we just kind of figured we'd throw some things out here that we saw on Sunday from Red Zone, from watching the games. I'm not even going to start with the one name that I put on the list. I'm going to put out here, and I think it's cool shit and it's weak shit, depending on where you lie. Drew Brees.
That's weak shit.
If you're a Saints fan and you don't give a shit about fantasy football, it's cool shit. Saints look good. If you're a fantasy football fan, it's super weak shit because Drew Brees is playing good football, but not from a fantasy football perspective.
You nailed that. And, me and Don actually had a mini fight last week when I said I would play McCown over Drew Brees. And I was not wrong and not right. They got about the same amount of points because Drew Brees saved you with the rushing touchdown and McCown saved you with that deep bomb. But I think my point was made. You don't have to play Drew Brees, man. It's not his fault. He's still awesome as hell, but finally, for once in his career, it's not all on his shoulders, and he doesn't have to. Yep. And they really have yet to be in a game where that's a situation. I guess week 1 against the Vikings, and he put up a pretty decent week, but that's really it, man.
That's it. It's not automatic anymore with Drew Brees. And quite frankly, it's a way bigger conversation than anybody ever thought it was going to be going into the season. But Absolutely. It is what it is. They've reestablished that running game with Kamara and Ingram there, and they don't need Drew Brees to win it anymore. They need him to put him in a position to win, but he doesn't need to lead them through the air. So that was just kind of one of my leading candidates, one of the big, takeaways that I saw from Sunday. What's something you got, cool shit, weak shit, that you saw across the games here?
The coolest shit to me is something you just said, Shrek, and I don't even think you noticed, man. Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara. They are the two best running backs in fantasy football. They've been so hot the last couple of weeks, and it's all thanks to Adrian Peterson in that trade. These two are just completely on display. Ingram, my man, finally getting it done big time. And then Kamara, for guys that picked him up, he's an every week start, and that's what you look for when you're picking up that, potential flyer when you're freaking out and your team's not as good, or you're just hoping that it works out. And goddamn, both these guys are unstittable, on fire, and the best thing to happen all year in fantasy football is these two.
Dude, I'm with you. The Kamara thing to me is it's mind-boggling because people grabbed him because they believed that the Saints weren't going to use Ingram. He wasn't the guy. Originally he was grabbed as he was going to be the guy, the sole guy.
Yep. And
now they're both the sole guys. You know what I mean? They both get so much work and produce that they could be their own guys on their own teams, and two fantasy studs from two different teams. It's insane. And the smile you have on your face just knowing Mark Ingram is finally free, I think literally says it all. It literally says
I got to get an Ingram jersey, man. I really love him. He is one of my favorite football players ever. He's awesome. I love watching Mark Ingram play, and he went the fuck off.
I actually want to say it's kind of criminal you don't have one. Maybe we'll see what we talked about before the show. If we drum up enough funding there, maybe we'll see if we can get you a Mark Ingram jersey courtesy of LTFF.
Can think of nothing more sad than a GoFundMe for a Mark Ingram jersey just so I can walk around my house in it. But that would be nice. That is
the beauty of America. So we will call out to you, the fans, to try and help Vinny make his dream come true. They do things for Make-A-Wish Foundation. We do them for Make-A-Vinny Foundation. And that is the Mark Ingram jersey right now. We'll see what we can do as we get closer to the holidays. But some other cool shit, some other weak shit. We already talked about Josh McCown, kind of overall shit the bed on based on what we essentially expected. Going into the week. I think it was just cool shit to watch the 49ers get their first win.
That was
especially
awesome,
over a fucking terrible Giants team. It was, I actually enjoyed watching the 49ers on Red Zone for the first time in a while.
Yeah. Beathard ripped the Giants the Giants defense kind of reminds me of Denver's defense. They still have all the pieces to be good, but they're out there for 40 minutes a game. So they just get shredded. Janoris Jenkins had an awful game, and the 49ers fucked them in the street. They got destroyed, which is It was hilarious. And then the other cool shit is Garrett Selleck, man, keeping the streak alive. 10 weeks in a row.
Yep, and 10 tight end scoring, and that's going to continue this week with Travis Kelce and the Chiefs coming to town.
He is going to have 2 touchdowns minimum. There's no way he leaves the Meadowlands without 2.
I agree. He's going to eat against the Giants, so that should be some cool shit on next week's podcast as we look back on the Giants-Chiefs game. And if not, I'm going to be super disappointed as a fantasy analyst and a Chiefs fan, quite frankly.
Could you imagine he ends the streak and does not score a touchdown? Because I can't imagine that.
I can't. I really can't picture it based on some of the guys we've seen score and how it happened.
I know.
They feature him so much that it makes too much sense. And maybe that's the problem. Maybe it does make way too much sense for it to somehow magically fucking happen.
It would happen this year if it's going to happen.
Yeah. That fair enough, man. Ain't that the truth? Cool shit as well. Just for me, seeing Teddy Bridgewater out on the sideline there.
Good for him, dude.
Yeah.
Teddy crying tears of joy. I love seeing Teddy back. That's good. Obviously, they're not taking they're taking every precaution with him and not throwing him out there automatically, and they're letting Case Keenum do his thing. Just a nice football story to see, and it's just been very awesome to watch.
Yes. Yep, very cool. And I've been a longtime Teddy fan from afar, so it was just nice to see him back out there after that gruesome injury. And I hope to see him, once he's fully ready to go, back out there playing a little football. So, Teddy, you've got a fan looking out for you from afar here. Vinny, what else you got? Cool shit, weak shit coming from the week.
You know what I liked? I'm gonna do what you put, Robert Woods. I enjoyed watching Robert Woods again go the fuck off. He's their number 1 wide receiver right now, and it's just you're riding it every single week. He's getting the most looks, most opportunities, touchdowns. I would imagine would regress, but Will Fuller is a person, and Robert Woods, I guess, is also now that kind of person. And until I see any regression, goddamn, you play him every single week, and he's just been a real flyer pickup for a lot of teams, and he is
huge.
Bailed out so many people. 30 plus. He
won a lot of people, a lot of weeks. I played Don in another league, and Don beat me on the back of it's what was essentially almost a 40-point week from Robert Woods with bonuses and all the other shit that came out of it.
Right.
And he did that for people all over. He won people weeks. He's been fun to watch. And that team looks good, man. It has been a wild ride. Todd Gurley and all those other pieces. They really have been wild to watch.
One of the best teams in the NFL, man.
That's crazy. That is crazy to think.
The turnaround. The turnaround is it's really amazing.
We would have been laughed out of a building, laughed out of a podcast anywhere we went as guests in September, and here we are now, November 14th, and they are best team in football.
I was gonna say I got one real quick.
Shoot.
We probably could have mentioned his name in the wide receiver pickups. Corey Davis, if he's still out there, he could have had a touchdown, but obviously he got knocked out and they rolled it a fumble and whatnot. And he actually had a really good game. He's definitely the most not looked to right now, but dude, he's still probably the most talented wide receiver the Titans have. And all they have to do is start throwing him more looks. And Mariota missed him on 2 throws because I was watching that game and it was not the coolest, but versus the Bengals. And, he was out there running free on some plays, beat a lot of defenders. And dude, Corey Davis is going to be a stud next year, I think. And, he could wind up being a stud as the year continues. So if he's out there or he can possibly work out a trade or something, I like Corey Davis a lot.
I agree for looking forward, dynasty, and even just as a football player to watch. Very, very cool shit. Lots of good things to come. And I think for me, Vinny, one more, I'm going to go with a weak shit here for me. Jordan Howard owners.
Oh, yeah.
Super, super crushing week. I mean, you looked at Jordan Howard with that matchup and you expected a blowout week. He put up, I don't even know the numbers, but it doesn't really matter. It was, I think, under 5 fantasy points, in half-point PPR leagues, which was disgusting for those that owned him.
That was another thing when I was playing the 50-50s I was talking about before. I put Jordan Howard in every lineup, and he just fucking tanked me, and he tanked a lot of people. So,
yep.
God damn, that was just, I didn't even understand. I guess, I mean, people are prone to have bum games like eventually, but this is one that I would not have seen coming like at all. More so than any random bum game. Like,
yeah,
his carries alone guarantee he won't get less than 5.
Dude, it's madness. I mean, again, and this was just that one of those weeks. You looked at Jordan Howard, you look at the Josh McCown game. I mean, matchups, they were great matchups, and it just the theory was there. The process was right. It just didn't pan out, and that's the way it goes sometimes. But I think that's it for me on Cool Shit Week Shit. We can go on forever and ever. Is there any other highlights you really want to hit before we move on?
Maybe one more.
This is it. Go for it.
This is it. So Marvin Jones, God damn it, dude. Did he fucking buried me in our league too. This is a weird one because I don't want to freak out or anything, but I realized, when someone's doing good for you, you don't really want to believe like the stats or past things. And the biggest thing for me with Marvin Jones is he plays every snap. But the thing is, Kenny Golladay was out for every single one of his good games. And he was active. Kenny Golladay was active and immediately puts up a fucking dud. 1 catch, 26 yards, barely, man. Like, fuck. It was, in a plus matchup. I mean, I think McCourty was back and probably on him, but fuck. It was just a week killer, a big week killer.
Yes. Yep. Well, like you said, you've been getting the big weeks, and I didn't realize that stat. That's very interesting. I didn't realize that with whenever Kenny Golladay was active versus inactive.
Yep.
Yeah, the splits there.
And, Kenny Golladay had a halfway decent game, got more looks, got more targets. So it's it might be a thing I'm overthinking just because one like the bum game I was talking about with Howard, like it could be that, but fuck.
Also not fuck. Fuck is fair enough. With that, Vinny, let's dive into the Thursday night game. We're going to preview it here on the recap podcast to make sure everyone can get some kind of feedback and some insight into the games. And that way they're not stuck waiting for the actual preview podcast to come out here from the Let's Talk Fantasy Football team. And let's start, I guess, on what side of the ball you want to start on. Doesn't really matter.
Let's man, we could have talked about them in week shit about the Steelers offense. Let's go over to them first because fuck, dude, at least they're home. I guess it doesn't even mean anything anymore because
no, it doesn't.
They haven't really been producing crazy numbers at all, home or away. It really means nothing now. And I guess I forgave them for the bummer in Indianapolis, but Titans come to visit the Steelers at home, and I suggested Ben as like a half-ass streamer last week, and I will never, ever do that again. Don was totally right. He was just he's really, really bad. I don't think he's come close to 20 points in fantasy.
Yep, and I don't think that changes here against the Titans.
I don't either, and it's a plus matchup. And if he put up a good game last week, I would be suggesting Ben again. But there's no way I'm going to ride or die on a Thursday night game with Ben Roethlisberger ever.
No, we talked about options before that are way better options if you're worried going into Thursday night football, and I think you just, you have to look elsewhere.
Jay Cutler.
Ooh, there he is, the man, the myth, the legend. Jay Cutler. Let's go running back. Le'Veon Bell. If you own Le'Veon Bell, you're playing him. There's no question. It doesn't, whether he's been what you want or you don't want. It is what it is. He's in your lineup. End of story.
Same thing with Brown, dude. Even though, again, he had the bum game against the Colts in a plus matchup. It's just, I guess it's going to happen. But, dude, best wide receiver in football. Keep playing.
Yep, I agree. You have to. You have to play him. I think you also have to play Juju Smith.
Oh my God, yes. Also could have talked about him in cool shit, but God, he is awesome. It sucks that like the Steelers got another cool, good player that I got to watch destroy the Bengals for years and years on end, man. It's getting ridiculous, but Juju's a great person, great player, and man, they gave him the opportunity. He's running away with it. And that says a lot because they involved Martavis Bryant big time. The first player, they tried to chuck up a huge bomb to Martavis and it got picked off immediately. Like Martavis did okay and they got him involved, but still not worried about that. Still wouldn't play him, droppable as hell. And Juju is not only the future, but active right now and destroying weeks. He's on a very good streak, and I would be very hesitant to, fuck with my lineup or anything. He is absolutely playing for me.
I agree. He's in there for sure. And I do want to give a shout out to Walsh here because I'm pretty sure he owns Juju and Alvin Kamara in our league.
That's why he's reviving himself, dude. Walsh was looking down in the pits with me, and he's out because of those two. Walsh, he tends to have the insight, man. He did it on Arian Foster before Arian Foster got big. He does well on some of these guys where you got to wait a little bit to pop. So I just want to give credit where credit's due on good calls there on Walsh's end there. He is arguably the smartest guy we've got here at Let's Talk Fantasy Football. I lean Don, but yeah, Walsh is up there.
Yeah, maybe we'll give him second to Don, but it's a close race for sure. On offense, I have no disagreements with anything there from the Steelers on your side, and I don't really think there's anything else to discuss on that offense.
With playoffs coming up, if you're a Bell owner, perhaps pick up James Conner. I don't know.
Okay.
People tend to go a little nuts, and he could be owned in a lot of leagues. I'm not even sure. But if you're, paranoid or getting ready to make a playoff push and you need that mental reassurance for yourself, like you could pick up James Conner, but that's just, again, your preference. Yeah. And we don't advise the handcuff because we don't even know what he'll do if Bell is out.
Yep, we don't, but we assume that we believe that's the handcuff if you really want to play the handcuff game. Mm-hmm. And then let's flip over to the other side of the ball, Vinny. Let's preview from the Titans side. Marcus Mariota has never faced the Steelers, so this is going to be his first taste of Heinz Field. The early forecast is for 15-mile-an-hour winds, so we'll see if that holds as we go into Thursday night football. I'm not playing Mariota. I'm looking at other options.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. He had a decent game against, the Bengals and definitely looked the most healthy he has in weeks. Did a lot more running. So if you're really, if you don't want to play like somebody like Case Keenum or something like that, if the name scares you off, Mariota is probably a guy that's owned in still 80% of leagues, despite being, I want to say, on the back end of like top 20 right now in terms of quarterbacks. It's such a tough matchup, but I think the rushing that he's going to provide you will have that floor, and they do still have a lot of weapons. So there are certainly worse options than Mariota.
There are definitely worse options, but again, like you said, it's a Thursday night game. It all plays in. Watch how the weather plays, guys, because if it's super windy, you got to figure they're going to try and run the ball even more so, particularly with his first game there in Heinz Field. It's going to be cold. But I think that takes us right into the running game. And, a couple interesting statistics, I think, on both sides here versus the Steelers' run defense and, the Titans' run game. The Steelers, they rank second in the NFL against the pass, and they have just given up 8 touchdown passes through 9 games. So obviously that plays to wide receivers, but they're allowing 4.2 yards per carry, which marks them as 22nd in the NFL. Again, you can nitpick and spin statistics kind of whatever way you want, but in Pittsburgh 7 wins this year, Vinny, they've allowed just 67.2 yards per game on the ground. And their losses to Jacksonville and Chicago, they've allowed 226.5 yards a game between the two. So I guess it kind of comes down to, do we believe that the Titans can be consistent enough to run the ball to dominate the Steelers' offensive line? Because the Titans have 5 games with fewer than 100 rushing yards, and they've lost 3 of them. So their rushing production seems to dictate statistically which way they go.
God damn, dude. You just destroyed me with stats. That was beautiful. Man. You're like Don. You're like Don right now with just stat after stat after stat. Absolutely throwing him out there, Shrek. But to what you said, I don't believe in their rushing game as much as I like DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry individually as players. I don't believe that they'll be able to get into a rhythm, and they really haven't in any game this year. They're splitting up the work in very odd ways. Murray is banged up, and I think that has a lot to do with it. So I don't think they're going to be able to, one, get up on the Steelers anyway, to, try to eat away the clock with some extra carries for both the backs. And what the hell was I saying? Two? Fuck. I was totally lost my train of thought. 2, I don't think they're going to get in that rhythm at all.
Yeah.
So
totally fair.
I'm kind of out on their ability to get that done, but I still like DeMarco Murray as a play just because it's DeMarco Murray, and I will forever believe in him. And you're rolling him out anyway, so he's still.
I agree. DeMarco Murray is a play. Derrick Henry not at all. Just DeMarco.
Yes, never, dude. He's the same thing as Tevin Coleman. I can't believe I have to address this every single week.
But you have to. You do.
So fucking dumb. Stop like in 3 years, Tevin Coleman will be an automatic starter. In 3 years, fucking Derrick Henry will be an automatic starter. I don't understand why people got to like do that stuff. I don't get that appeal of like fantasy. Like, why do you want to shoot yourself in the foot?
Because everyone thinks they know the inside track. They think they know that I'm going to be the first one. I'm going to play him. I'm going to play him in his first big game. Congrats. You're going to be wrong for the first 24, but you'll get it on the 25th try.
Yeah, that's an aspect of fantasy I do not get. Like, just look at what's happening. Like, he's not a lead back. He doesn't get a lot of carries, and his touchdowns are more random than anyone else's. Like,
I'm with you, man. It's a curse other people got to deal with. For us, we are fortunate enough not to.
I'll pick him up after Murray goes to a different team or fucking something else. But
there you go.
Until then,
options galore. Take us over to the wide receivers, Vinny. What are you doing there? Who you starting? Who you sitting?
I would not start anybody. The high upside play is going to be
definitely
always
Big Dick Decker.
Oh yeah, definitely Decker. He's been so good, man. No, he has been fucking god awful. Decker waiver wire his ass big time.
Yes,
one of the biggest disappointments of the season. But the high upside play will forever be Corey Davis until the end of the season. So you saw him do well in a bad matchup against the Bengals. He'll probably do okay in this matchup, getting somewhere like I would say 6 or 7 targets, which seems to be what they're splitting up between Corey Davis and Rashard Matthews. Rashard's a safe sit, I think, for me. He gets that work, but he is not as talented as Davis. But he could be a better pro right now in terms of like routes and what to do and his chemistry with Mariota. But it's definitely growing with Corey Davis. So I like Corey Davis as like the young upside stud play here. And if you wanted to do it, if you did it last week, let me put it this way. If you did it last week and you own him, just keep it rolling.
Yeah, I agree. If you already did it, just keep that wheel going. And I think if you own Delaney Walker, you're rolling Delaney Walker out there. He's had three weeks in a row over 60 yards. He hasn't found the end zone. It's been frustrating from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah,
Steelers are good against. They're stingy against the tight end, I guess is a good word for it. But I can't imagine you have a better option than Delaney Walker to roll out here against the Steelers.
Yeah, and you'd hate to get burned when you've been sticking with them all year. I'm sure Don will fuck up and stop playing him and play like Ebron or something or Gresham and just get burned.
Oh, that's it, man. That's it right there. He's going to pick up Gresham off the wire. He's going to sit Walker. It's going to burn him, and then he's going to play Gresham, and Gresham's going to – we just talked about it. It's going to blow up in his face just because everyone has talked about how Gresham has to work out.
Yeah. Poor Don can't get his tight ends right.
Hey man, it's a problem we all suffer with. Don, we can go to group therapy together.
Very, very true. That's what this is. The whole podcast is that.
It is group therapy without the $150 an hour charge to sit and let someone listen to you talk. Do you have anything else on this game, Vinny?
No, that's it. I'm gonna take the Steelers here. I'm not predicting an upset or anything.
I'm going to go with you as well. Steelers at home. Sweep it through. And with that, Vinny, we're going to go into the reader questions. All of them we have coming in via email. Some of them we're sending in multiple ways, but we've got them in here nonetheless. We haven't looked at these preview before here, guys, so if we stumble through them, we'll do our best. First question comes in from Jack. He says, who should I start in Week 11? QB Dak Prescott or Matthew Stafford?
Ah, man, dude, this is, again, we were talking about it, dude. It's all about Tyron Smith, and
yes,
it's Dak in the night game on Sunday, so fuck it, man. I got to go Stafford, even though the Bears are a tough matchup, and they're visiting the Bears, but Stafford, all he does is he's got to throw 30-plus a game, so I'll take that upside over Dak, potentially getting ravaged by the Eagles.
I agree. We just don't know enough about Smith and if he's going or whatnot yet. I'm going to go Matthew Stafford as well. So, Jack, good luck. We don't love it, but he's our guy out of the two. Question 2 comes from Adrian. He says, which tight end to start, Hunter Henry, Charles Clay, or Vernon Davis? He says, hopefully I win Vernon Davis off waivers, half PPR.
So, all right, this is a loaded question. I hope you don't own or are planning on owning all three of these fellas, but I think I lean Clay as the play, but that could change with the health of Jordan Reed because I love what Vernon Davis has been doing with Jordan Reed out. So safest pick for me right now is Clay. Hunter Henry, man, he's not the bane of my existence, but like getting close because he's super hot and cold. At least I know Clay will get targets.
Yes, we know Clay's going to – I'm going to go Vernon Davis. And again, like you said, I guess if Jordan Reed's fully healthy and active, it probably shifts over to Clay. But
again, both 1 o'clock games, so
so you'll know.
Actually, yeah. So Vernon Davis will play at 1, and Clay will play at 4. So that's still not the worst situation. You know, if you're hoping to pick up Davis on waiver, you will know before 1 if Reed is healthy. If Reed is healthy and active, do not play Vernon Davis and go Clay.
Yep. And between these options here, Adrian, if you have the 2, get rid of Hunter Henry. Get him off your team like Vinny alluded to. Don't have 3 guys, first off.
Drop Henry for Davis, and then you can decide between those.
There you go. Then you have both options, and you're good to go.
Absolutely.
All right, Vinny, moving on. Joe, he says, must start 4 flex between Amir, Diggs, Cup, Deion Lewis, Ted Ginn, your boy Crow Daddy, Forte, who's out, Buck Allen, and Nelson Aguilar. He's already starting Kamara and Doug Martin.
Yes.
Running back.
I love how he says Martin's like an automatic play. Joe is my guy.
No, I don't think it's an automatic play, but whatever. 2 wide receivers are AJ Green and Cooks. Says, so who should I start at flex, or should I change my starting 2 running backs and 2 wide receivers?
Oh, okay. So he does leave it open for us.
Yeah, he gives us a little bit of an option, but I mean, you got to go 4 flex. That's pretty wild.
We got some shit to play with here.
Yeah, I just grabbed a piece of paper actually to kind of work it out in front of me.
Kamara for sure. Lock him in at RB1.
Yes.
Absolutely. Diggs, lock him in at wide receiver 1.
Okay, so Diggs and then Kamara's on there. And then, I mean, at running back.
Oh, got to play Green and Cooks, though. Got to play both those dudes.
Yeah. Okay, so wide receivers a lock, and then that's our first flex. And then, so we got 3 more flexes to go, and then we still have 1 running back slot to fill. I think Martin has to be one of them, as much as I hate Doug Martin.
I agree with Joe here. I think Martin's the play, and, he could have a good game. I mean, they gave him 20 carries, didn't do much. Jets have been a little stingy against the run as of late, and goes against the Dolphins, who just got shredded. And if Martin gets the work, 20 carries, it's hard to pass up. So,
and it is.
He's still the roll him out there. Don't feel great about it guy, and he's got the upside of being talented. That's it.
I think I'm scratching Deion Lewis from this list, and you're scratching Forte. I'm trying.
I almost want to say Crowell to flex. They draw the Jags, but the way you beat the Jags is running the football. But the Browns are so bad.
Yeah, they're super bad, and they're going to know they're going to have to run it.
It's tough.
Yikes. I'm going to go Cup as one of my remaining flexes here. I got 3, so I'm going to go Cup. I guess this is standard, right? He didn't specify scoring. You know what? You're right. I'm going to go Crow, Cup, and dare I say Aguilar.
Yeah, I think Aguilar's a must play. I've finally turned that corner of my denial, and he's definitely got to be in there. I think Buck Allen's droppable too, so if you can make some room on your team there with Danny Woodhead coming back, if you want to free up maybe some flyers in there that we talked about before. But yeah, Shrek, I think what you said is my lock as well. I like that a lot.
All right, so just for Joe, if you want to zoom through it, running backs, Kamara and Martin, wide receivers, Diggs and Green, flex, Cooks, Aguilar, Cup, and Crow. So Crow Daddy wraps it out. Good luck. good luck. You've got quite some options to choose from there.
Godspeed.
Godspeed indeed. This question comes in from Ryan. He says, should I trade Evan Ingram for Manning and Jordan Reed? I'm in a 2 QB PPR league, and Mariota and Dalton are my QBs.
No, because Evan Ingram is filthy right now. Arguably the number one pass catching option on the Giants next to Shepard.
Jordan Reed's always hurt. You don't know if you're going to use him.
He's hurting now. So
he's hurt now, and he's always hurt. And I don't think Eli's really he's not an upgrade over what you got there for what you're going to do anyway.
Yeah, dead on. Like Mariota and Dalton, they're just keep rolling them. Like Manning's not an upgrade, like you said. Neither Jordan Reed is. You're downgrading in every sense. So don't do this trade.
Yes, it's a loss on both sides. I agree. This one comes in. Final question of the podcast comes in from Mike. He says, He's in second place in his league, so he's fairly set for the playoffs. Good for you, Mike. He says, is it smart to trade Alshon Jeffrey, Kelvin Benjamin, and Jimmy Graham for Rob Gronkowski and Latavius Murray? My other wide receivers are Thielen, Jarvis Landry, Devontae Parker, Robert Woods, and Corey Davis.
I was immediately like, no. And then the loaded part came after where he's got so many wide receivers that are great and has tons of room to play with. And
I'll tell you what.
I wish I knew. Well, hold on. Oh, he's giving Jimmy Graham away for, okay.
I think I'd do the deal.
Man, this is one of those, like, I hear someone saying, I'm like, I wish I had your balls, dude. This is because it's a, like you said, I think I would do it. It's a nice, again, it's with the depth he has at wide receiver. It's very impressive. And you can continue to fly because, all right, he's just had his best game.
Yeah, so you're essentially selling high because I expect that to be his best game. Calvin, we don't know what we have on Calvin.
You're selling an unknown in Calvin, and then you sell the hot and cold Jimmy Graham
for the upside of Gronk.
Yes, this is basically for Gronk, and then you get depth at running back, which I'm assuming he needs with all the plethora of wide receivers here. So I approve of this trade. Shrek, I think I agree.
I approve. I mean, again, it's easier to say when we're not the ones that take the actual leap off the cliff. But, Mike, I mean, again, there's a school of thought that says don't overthink what got you here. But I think Gronk is worth the upside. Particularly, it's a big win this week, I think, against the Raiders. And who doesn't like rolling out Rob Gronkowski with Tom Brady as they head into the playoffs anyway? So I don't think you can go wrong.
I also think it's one of the more fair trades you see because it's not, trading has been reduced to like, how can I fuck over this guy? And this is very, I take a hit, you take a hit, but we upgrade in certain areas.
And it's funny when we get questions sometimes because people are like, oh, well, would you do, we say it all the time, would you do X, Y, Z? And, our responses are like, well, no. Or we're like, well, fuck yeah, but we don't think anybody in their right mind is going to do that deal because everyone thinks like, oh, well, I'll give you, fucking Dion, or Charles Sims for Le'Veon Bell. It's just not going to happen.
This one, it sounds like he's going to pitch this himself. Like he's not like, oh, I got this trade. And you know what? If I was the Rob Gronkowski, Latavius Murray owner, I would definitely take this trade. I think it's a good one for both of you guys.
Yeah, I think both of you win. Mike, I think just look, again, we don't know the rest of your roster. We're assuming you need running back help. So you get Gronk and you get a little running back support there. Fucking cool. Do it, ship it, send it on through, as Vinny would say. Send it over.
Then I'll deny it in front of your face.
Multiple times after saying it didn't come through. Good times. All right, guys. Preview podcast is going to drop Friday and Saturday morning, respectively. So keep your eyes out for that. Share the podcast with anyone and everyone in the fantasy football world. If you don't want to share it with your league, share it with everybody else outside your league. We're on iTunes, Spreaker. You can find us on iHeartRadio. Literally anywhere you want us, we're there. Find us on Alexa, Google Home, you name it. And we're there. Subscribe, download, do your thing. Send in questions, guys, and we'll answer you as quick as we can. With that, I'm Nick Schreck. He's Vinny Gonzalez for Let's Talk Fantasy Football. We'll catch you on the flip side.
This has been Let's Talk Fantasy Football. Thanks for listening.